Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Supervisors in Government Community of Practice virtual networking event we have here. I can see our participant number ticking up. We're so excited you're here to join us today. While we wait for folks to join us virtually, we have a little icebreaker for everyone. So as we're nearing the end of the summer months here, I'm curious what everyone is looking forward to in fall. Um, Hi, I see some chats going in the chat. This is awesome. So yeah, let us know what you're looking forward to college football. Okay, Pete. Pete's ready to go. Cooler temperatures, and anything specific you're looking forward to?
Oh, I actually have learned to love the change of seasons. I didn't used to be that way, but now I really enjoy the oncoming of fall and the colorful leaves. So I'll be ready for that come late September.
Yes, likewise. I think far and away everyone's looking forward to a reprieve in temperature, humidity, hoodies. We do like hoodies, nothing like a cozy sweatshirt or sweater. Pumpkin spice latte, holidays. Yes. I have two little kids, so I'm just excited to I don't know, get back to like normal clothes. I feel like when I send them to daycare, they have to wear bathing suits there. Because they do water play in the morning and then change into regular. It's a whole thing. I'm excited for that to shut down there. Okay, well, it's 4:03. We have a lot to cover today, so we will get started. But again, for folks who have just joined us, welcome and thank you for being here today. If you're new to this, you are in the supervisors community of practice for folks in government. This is our monthly virtual networking event where we uh, talk about a topic that should be relevant for folks who are in supervisory or management roles in government or who aspire to or want to move into those types of roles. And if you have been here before, welcome back. And thank you for spending your time with us on a Monday afternoon. My name is Leah Anderson. I'm the digital marketing director at GovLoop, and I host these. Looks like everybody's already gotten the hang of the chat, but just a reminder that is there for you to put in comments or questions as we go along. We'll try to cover whatever we can in the time that we have today. And then one more plug for our LinkedIn group. So if you have more questions or want to keep connecting with your colleagues here, please do so in the LinkedIn group. We'd love to see engagement there as well. Oh, and Anne didn't even show up after all that work. We were finagling with the headshot today. Of course, it didn't work. My speaker today with us is Ann Davison, who's Director of Strategic Communications and Executive Leadership at Guidehouse. Did I do that correct without?
That's great. Great mouthful. You did a great job, Leah.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being here today. Most importantly, the questions stuck around so I can still see those, but I'm ready to get into it if you are.
Great.
Okay.
Yes. So,
All right. I can get started here with the first question for you.
mm,
So we always like to start broadly, of course, and kind of get a feel for the topic at hand. So we're talking about employee engagement. So let's start there. Can you provide like a working definition for everyone today so we're on the same page of what employee engagement is?
excellent. Great place to start. And thanks again to you and GovLoop for having me. So, what are we going to tackle today? Employee engagement. Employee engagement is really it's the extent to which people feel passionate about their jobs, are committed to the organization that they're working in, and are willing to go maybe beyond just what's expected in their role and put in discretionary effort into their work. So this means that engaged employees aren't just satisfied with doing the requirements, they're emotionally invested in the success of the organization and their team. And I got to think everybody on this call has probably had at least one job where they felt in their career they were very engaged and emotionally invested in the job. I hope that you have, but you've probably had another experience or a time where maybe you weren't as passionate or committed to the organization. So, as leaders, our job is to be aware of these fluctuations that occur with individuals in our team and with our organization, and to build a supportive environment that can help stabilize and enhance employee engagement over time.
Perfect. Perfect. So that feeling of being emotionally invested, I really like that because often we don't really marry emotions with our work sometimes, but that's a really good way to put it. You're emotionally invested in what's going on.
Yeah, we all know the days that you get up and you're ready to go to work, and this is
Mhm.
something and a place that you're working and people that you're working with that you really want to give it your best. And then sometimes you get it to that place where you're like, I may have outgrown this, or
Mhm.
this might not be the right fit for me. And that's a lower level of engagement.
Right, right. Okay, so we all know public service right now, career in government, there's a lot going on. Let's just put it like that for now.
Mhm.
With all of the challenges we're facing in this field, why is employee engagement so important right now?
Well, quite a few reasons, really. First of all, and it's always important because an engaged employee is just simply going to be more productive, right? When you are distracted by things that are sapping you emotionally, morally, are not just inspiring you to do your best and give your best, it's going to have an impact on your productivity. Engaged employees are more focused and energized. They're more committed to delivering quality work. They're not just doing the minimum; they're giving more. And so, it's important as a leader for you to be able to empower and encourage engagement so you can get that productivity from your team. Engaged employees also experience lower turnover, right? If people are happy at work, if they feel their talents are being recognized, their values are being used, they're going to stick around a little longer. So you're going to have lower turnover. And certainly at a time when it costs a lot to recruit or onboard or ramp up a new employee, when we have hiring freezes, we may not have the opportunity to replace people that leave. Minimizing turnover is really important. And then finally, engagement is really tied closely also to innovation and resilience, things that are important in a team. And if I feel engaged, I'm going to be able to take those difficult times a little better. I'm going to be able to withstand unexpected change and extreme events. I will build some resilience when I have higher engagement. So, in times of uncertainty, a highly engaged workforce can be a stabilizing force.
hmm Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, So let's talk about it's this engagement continuum or spectrum,
Mhm.
maybe,
Mhm. Yeah,
we find
yeah,
ourselves on different ends of this engagement continuum or spectrum at different times too. So it's
yeah.
no coincidence that we're covering this topic in August because we
Correct.
tend to feel a little bit more unengaged, either professionally or personally. Um, but how can we sort of read the room on engagement as with, the context of being a leader, supervisor? Um, how can what signs are we looking out for? What do you think?
I love that question. How do we read the room on engagement? I love how you put that. So there's both formal and informal ways. Formal, historically, at least at the federal level, agencies have been able to look to their FEVS report, their Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. I'm sure many on this call are familiar with that. And it's really been a good tool and measure for federal organizations to take a pulse on employee engagement. And I know that many of you at the state and local level have your own version of employee engagement tools. Again, those can be very helpful. But even if you don't have access to a regular survey or those kind of formal results, and I believe the FEVS is on pause right now, so we're going to have to be a little more resourceful. There are some key elements for measuring engaging employee engagement. Gallup, actually, this is something you could just do a search. Gallup has identified 12 elements of employee engagement. Things like, I know what's expected of me at work. I have the materials and equipment I need to do my job. I have the opportunity to learn and grow. My favorite one is, my supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. I always love that. When I think about the jobs that I've been the happiest and the workplaces I've been the happiest, it's when I've been able to say, yeah, I have a supervisor or someone's at work that care about me as a person. But Leah, as we were saying, not every leader has access to survey these things. So it's very important to walk the halls, if you will, whether that's virtual or in person, and get direct feedback in your one on ones, in your small groups and small team meetings about how do people feel about these topics. At Guidehouse, we had a client, a large federal agency with employees all over the country that coming out of the pandemic were really experiencing some difficulty with retention and recruitment and overall employee engagement. And so we started organizing with the client, with leaders, just small, I'll call them informal focus groups, 30-minute phone calls with just, 5, 10 people on the line. And it was really a listening session to find out what's on people's mind. What are they dealing with at work? What are they seeing? And we got so many incredible insights for that. And over the course of 6 months, it was such a great, valuable way to get input from employees that leadership held, I think, 25 of these sessions with 250 employees or more. So you don't have to have a formal survey. There are informal ways that you can get that feedback to hear what's happening. It's just about making sure that you create the opportunities for deep listening.
hmm Yeah, that's really interesting. To your point, I think that touching on the federal employee viewpoint survey is on the nose. That just happened. So I think this is a great question for folks to understand. There are other avenues where you can check in and try to get a pulse on engagement. It's also an area I think people get very creative about. I think when we're talking about one-on-ones, how you structure those is really interesting. And spoiler alert, that's actually our topic for next month is all about one-on-ones. But in general, people have taken a new approach to those. I think since remote work and being displaced kind of caught on because you can do those walking one-on-ones if sometimes just being one-on-one with a Zoom feels a little rigid or something, you can take it back to the phone and go outside. Icebreakers, we love those. I think they're still really helpful, even though they've been around for a long time now. But I think to your point, just looking for these other avenues has been, where you can see some progress there too. Um,
Leah, talk about sort of just being creative. One of the methods that I often use with teams and individuals, I challenge them just to get out a piece of paper and a pencil, draw a little grid with 4 spots, and I give them a few minutes to draw me a picture of where you feel like you are at work today.
mhm,
And then second grid, where would you like to be?
mhm,
Third grid, how would you like to get there? And fourth grid, what will that enable for you?
mhm,
And I've actually do this exercise for myself every, like twice a year.
mhm,
Where are you today? Where would you like to be? How would you like to get there? What will it enable? And asking people to draw it uh,
mhm.
rather than put it in words, just it really opens people up a lot more. And often folks are willing to share that too. So just a creative idea you might want to try with your teams.
Yeah, that's a great exercise. And I love the fact that we're writing it down. It's
Yeah.
like one less digital thing to do. I want to put pen to paper and write it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I encourage people to draw, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, we're not, words sometimes confine our thinking. So
hmm
if you're willing to doodle and draw a little, even better.
Yes, exactly. So sort of on that note, what
Mhm.
trends are you seeing in employee engagement that interest you or you think are interesting?
Yeah. So honestly, it's been pretty dramatic, the change since the pandemic. There's
hmm
obviously been a greater emphasis on employee desire to balance their personal and their professional interests and responsibilities. So that's something that's important for us as leaders to recognize. We're working with people who have lives, who have to work from closets in a unfamiliar library sometimes, right? It's not as straightforward as it used to be.
Mhm.
So recognizing that employees are balancing the personal and the professional, and there's a lot tighter integration between those two, or at least not the boundaries there once was.
Mhm.
That's important to recognize. We obviously see a higher desire for flexibility with regard to work hours and location. And let's be honest, in the public sector, that's not always
Mhm.
possible for us to offer. Some agencies are able to do that, but many public sector agencies, the nature of the job or the requirements are for in office 5 days a week or 6 days a week, whatever the case may be. But for those of us who have chosen public sector career paths or supporting public sector jobs, many of us got into it for because we have a strong sense of purpose and a desire to give back to our community, whether it's a local community that we're working for or a federal agency that has a mission that we align with, serving veterans, defending the country, um, being good stewards of treasury dollars. Most of us who are in public sector are probably working in something that calls to us and speaks to us. So when we think about how to address employee engagement terms, I think it's really important to keep that North Star reason for people wanting to be a part of this organization top at mind and ask ourselves as leaders, am I leading in a way that regularly reminds people of our
Mhm.
mission, of our vision, and the important role that they are playing in supporting that mission and how we value their contribution to that mission?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's so important, right? That's like the core of it here is people need to feel connected to their mission to be engaged government employees. And that can be tricky. That is tricky, but it's something that we work on a lot here at GovLoop through our professional development virtual summit, Next Gen. I just want to put a plug for that out there because that is one thing that we focus on is, you know, the mission of public service and how to kind of center that in your daily work and your daily role. And I think as supervisors, we're all human. We get tired, we get burnt out too. But there are these other resources where you can turn to keep hearing that message. And that's something, we created so that you can share it with your team. So that's something we'll put in a follow-up email. I just want to make sure everyone's aware that these things are free. But we have keynote speakers that are laser focused on that message, mission, being connected to the mission and how important that is for leaders and everyone that you're working with. Um, so we'll follow up on that. But we'll get back to the questions here. I guess we want to drill down a little bit around proven strategies that can help drive and improve employee engagement. Particularly in times of uncertainty when things are changing all the time, we're not exactly sure what priorities are or how things will change in a matter of weeks, months. Um,
Right.
so what do you suggest there, Anne?
Yeah. So, of course, even the strongest leaders face significant challenges in maintaining employee engagement during times of organizational upheaval, budget challenges, downsizing, reorgs, hiring freezes, significant policy changes. I mean, fill in the blank. If you work at a local, federal, state, or tribal government agency, you're probably going to face one or more of these challenges on a regular basis. And so, as leaders, it's our job to help our teams rise above the noise and bring some stability. And so there's just a couple tips that came to my mind on this, Leah. The first is just acknowledging the situation, being upfront about the difficulties and the impact that what's happening around you is having on you and your team. Doesn't mean that you go in the corner and join a big wine fest necessarily, but it is important to acknowledge that these are hard times and this is a stressful situation, and it's causing folks some anxiety. So I think employees really appreciate that honesty in their leader and are more likely to stay engaged when they feel that their feelings are recognized and their concerns are being heard. But then once you acknowledge that situation, it's really important to focus on what you can control, right? What can we do here? While we may not be able to control the higher level decisions or the external factors, we can still influence the work environment of this team each and every day, how we choose to work together, how we choose to treat one another, how we choose to communicate. So by providing some support and maintaining open communication with the team, maybe inviting the team to come together and affirm or reaffirm team behaviors and values that are important, it allows us to feel like I've got some control over this situation. And that's really important. And then lastly, as leaders, it's important that you be an advocate for your team. It can be easy to sort of feel also overwhelmed by what's happening out and around you, but by speaking up, bringing forth the value, insights, data about how your team is contributing to the mission, you can help ensure that the work that your employees are committed to is being heard and recognized, and hopefully have some influence on those factors that are happening around you. I think the bottom line really is that as leaders, we're not necessarily able to fix all aspects of employee engagement, particularly in turbulent times. But you can be the person who demonstrates that you care, that you're
Mhm.
available, and that you're listening. Like I mentioned in that list above, being the one person who at work, cares what contribution you're making and where you would like to keep going in your career. Being that person for your team really can make a difference during hard times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you mentioned there, as the leader sort of pulling together data or insights to kind of illustrate contributions of team and things like that, I feel like that could be really helpful to share back with your team too, to sort of reinforce,
Mhm.
the work you're doing matters. We're
Mhm.
moving the needle. There's impact due to your work. I think that's a huge part of keeping engaged is do you think that the work you do has an impact somewhere? So I love that idea of really sharing it back with your team, acknowledging the milestones and the work being done. So I love that point.
Yeah, I think we tend to not celebrate often enough, right? It's very hard to just take a moment to sit back and recognize the important work that's been done when there is so much to do. Uh,
Exactly.
I've been spending the afternoon with a team from the state of Maryland today, and they realized, the leadership team, that it had been months since they had really celebrated any wins, and they had had an enormous number of wins, many of which the full team probably wasn't aware of. So they've just decided they're going to start having quarterly town halls to make sure that everybody's hearing, here's what the great work that we have done, and here's what's coming up. Here are the big milestones that we're working forward together now. And I really think that their team is going to appreciate that. You can't assume that each one individual worker can see the whole picture and how they connect and support that picture. So as leaders, communicating to your team on a regular basis is really valuable.
Yeah, that's a great example. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, great timing that we're doing this today.
Yeah, way to go, state of Maryland. And I have to laugh too because I'm in toddler world with my two kids and positive reinforcement. It always comes back to that, but it's really so powerful when you use it in in the right context in the right way. But who doesn't love positive reinforcement?
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, we'll move on here. We've got about 5 minutes left. So, how can supervisors in public service roles model healthy engagement? Because I will add, we also live in this age of, you know, folks can overcorrect quite easily and kind of live in this zone of toxic positivity or whatever it might be. So, how
Mhm.
can we model, to your point, this healthy engagement? We don't want to go too far.
Yes.
What are your tips there?
Yeah. So, My background is in strategic communications. That's what I've done for the government and with the government for decades now. And this is where I really like to encourage storytelling.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is reminding the team of the impact, as we were talking about, that their work has on real people and real communities by raising up real stories, right? So, you always can start with yourself about something that you've done recently or lately that really made a difference, and
Mhm.
invite team members to share their own stories of pride and meeting, and making that a regular part of your team conversations, looking for ways maybe in your team meetings to explicitly link a task that feels perhaps a little burdensome and challenging to something that's actually going to be critical, valuable, important to help the public or the audience and constituency of your organization. I think other things that we can do is leaders is, well, I liked what you just said, that positive reinforcement, expressing genuine appreciation, right?
Mhm.
We're about to head into a holiday weekend. And before folks scatter, maybe there's a moment that you can take to recognize the folks on your team for their hard work and contributions. And I would do it with a story. Be specific.
Mhm.
Be as specific as you can. It will help the individual team member recognize that you recognize their specific value and contribution.
Mhm.
So, a simple, heartfelt thank you is nice, but something a little more personal and customized can really go a long way in heading someone off into the holiday Labor Day weekend feeling
Yeah.
like, wow, I make a difference here.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Our last question here, already, this always happens, it zooms by. But what is one immediate step for folks listening today to take tomorrow to address employee engagement?
Yeah. So, it's back to school season. Again, I'm in Maryland, and today was the first day of school in the county that I'm in. I know in Washington, D.C., it started last week. It kind of happens different times around the country, but back to school season for me is always a good time to also, as a leader, put on my growth mindset.
Hmm.
And so maybe set aside some time to think a little bit, how will you address employee engagement in your organization? What do you want to learn a little bit more about in with regard to the needs of your team, comprehensively, or individuals on your team? We'll share some resources, as Leah mentioned, in a follow up, but setting aside some time for yourself to get smarter, more proactive on this topic of employee engagement, and really building a growth mindset on this topic, not just with you, but with the members of your team. That's
Hmm.
perhaps a place to start. And then I'd say, lastly, just holiday weekend, take care of yourself and allow yourself some grace, right? We can't fix it all, but we can do what we can do.
Yes, that's a perfect parting note. And I will just say too, I think we had 186 people join us today. So to your point, if everybody takes a moment to think about what they will do to help improve employee engagement on their team, we're talking about 186 different teams
Wow.
across government. So that impact is huge. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise on this topic. We really appreciate it. And yes, we will send up lots of resources and the recording tomorrow. So if you miss anything, don't fret. We will follow up with you. And then just a couple of reminders. We have another meeting like this at the end of September where we will be talking about one-on-ones and how to structure those in detail. So come back for that next month. Check out the LinkedIn group and look out for a newsletter for this group. But once again, thank you, Anne, and to everyone on the call. Thanks so much for spending your Monday afternoon with us, and we hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. And we'll talk soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.